SummerSlam 2025 ended in controversial fashion, as Brock Lesnar made his first appearance in 2 years and laid out John Cena with an F5 after Cena had dropped the WWE title to Cody Rhodes. Considering the reason why the Beast had been away from the ring for so long, WWE's decision to bring him back proved to be a controversial one. But it wasn't the first time there had been controversy at the so-called biggest party of the summer. I'm Sam Driver from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 biggest WWE SummerSlam controversies. Join us! Number 10, the WWE 2K14 debacle. Alright, this didn't take place at SummerSlam itself, but it was such a notorious incident that we can't help but include it here. The night before 2013's biggest party of the summer, Jim Ross hosted a panel discussion to promote the WWE 2K14 video game, featuring legends like Mick Foley, Steve Austin, Daniel Bryan, Ric Flair, Paul Heyman, and Rey Mysterio. Dolph Ziggler was also there. From the off, it was clear something was amiss, as good old JR openly mocked the pre-written comments he'd been scripted to say. From there, the event went completely off the rails, especially whenever the inebriated Nature Boy went on one of his wild tangents. WWE officials were furious with how the event turned out, and Ross was duly fired by Vince McMahon for his apparent failure as a moderator to keep the train on the tracks. Which seems a bit unfair, since I'm not sure 10 men could keep a totally sourced Ric Flair under control, but Ross did ultimately take responsibility for the event getting out of hand and accepted his punishment. Number 9. Ooh, what a rut! For most of the WWE stars who wrestled at SummerSlam 92, the experience of performing in front of 80,000 fans inside Wembley Stadium was one they would never forget. For Road Warrior Hawk, it was one he couldn't remember. Deep in the throes of drug addiction, Hawk took several Placidil before the Legion of Doom scheduled match with Money Inc., which was set to be the semi-main event. When Vince McMahon saw how messed up Hawk was, however, the match was moved to the opening slot for the American pay-per-view version, as the boss and his star got into a backstage argument. A barely coherent Hawk, clearly out of his mind and very sluggish, then went out and wrestled what would turn out to be his last WWE match for more than 4 years. Under the influence and upset with his lot in McMahon's company, Hawk opted not to board the flight back to the United States and just quit the promotion. He opted instead to stay in Blighty with John the Berserker Nord, as the duo joined up with the London chapter of the Hells Angels motorcycle gang. Number 8. Austin doesn't play the game. After Steve Austin won the WWE title for the first time and became the biggest superstar in the business, he did whatever he had to do to protect his spot and his character. If that meant turning down programs or matches with certain stars that he didn't see as being on his level, as he's reported to have done with the likes of Jeff Jarrett, Billy Gunn, and Mark Mero, then so be it. One star who may not have been on Stone Cold's level, but was on his way to becoming a main event fixture, was Triple H, with the two set to clash over the WWE title in the main event of SummerSlam 99. The creative direction initially called for the game to go over on the Texas Rattlesnake, but Austin didn't like that scenario and got plans changed. Instead of dropping the belt to Hunter in a singles match, Austin asked for Mankind to be added to the mix. He would then happily do the honors for Mick Foley's alter ego, with Helmsley free to win the title from Mankind the next night on Raw. Number 7. Ego versus ego. Well, if you think Steve Austin had an ego when it came to protecting Stone Cold's best interests, may I interest you in some Shawn Michaels, or perhaps a little dabble of Hulk Hogan. The Heartbreak Kid and the Hulkster were notorious within the industry for playing the creative control card and doing whatever they could to get their way, which usually meant not losing high-profile matches. So when the two men met at SummerSlam 2005, something had to give, brother. Shawn agreed to momentarily turn heel for what he believed was to be a 3-match program, but Hogan preferred the one-and-done approach, with him going over on the night, naturally. Michaels didn't take this change of course well and reverted to the HBK of old, entering a performance full of blatant overselling that many thought was the showstopper's way of mocking the Hulkster. Michaels himself claimed that that was just the way he always sold for much bigger opponents when he was a heel, but I mean, come on. Don't you know lying's a sin, Jesus boy? His real feelings were pretty much confirmed during his promo on Raw the next night, where he sarcastically put over Hogan's cat-like reflexes while taking other shots at the Hall of Famer. Number 6. A bad angle. SummerSlam 2000 was set to be the scene of the biggest match in the career of Kurt Angle to that point. The Olympic hero, less than a year into his full-time in-ring run on the main roster, was set to challenge for The Rock's WWE title in a triple threat match, also featuring Triple H. Embroiled in a love triangle with the cerebral assassin and his kayfabe wife Stephanie McMahon, it was clear to see that WWE saw big things in Angle's immediate future, and his first pay-per-view main event was a testament to that. Prior to the Great One's arrival, however, Triple H attacked Angle and set him up for a pedigree through the announce table. Regrettably, the table buckled under their collective weight right as the game was about to execute the move, sending Kurt crashing down hard with no time to protect himself. The gold medalist was on another planet, and when he emerged later in the match, it was obvious that he was out on his feet, later admitting that Stephanie had to call all of his spots to him from ringside as he couldn't remember anything. Given what we now know about the seriousness of concussions, this is not a good look for WWE, and nor was sending Angle out to wrestle at a SmackDown taping 2 days later. Number 5. RKOed. Anytime you're in the ring with Brock Lesnar, you know that the former UFC heavyweight champion could turn you into hamburger meat at the drop of a hat. The Beast Incarnate is a bad man, and though obviously very skilled and surprisingly safe considering his power, strength, and legit fighting skills, there have been occasional moments where Brock has hurt people in the ring for real. Lesnar's headline bout with Randy Orton at SummerSlam 2016 was, in truth, a pretty run-of-the-mill affair, at least until the finish. After almost beating the Viper with an F5, Brock removed his gloves and began cracking Orton in the head with heavy bombs, drawing blood and giving Randy a nasty concussion that kept him out of action for the best part of a month as he won the bout via TKO. In the confusion of what was a shoot and what was a work, an enraged Chris Jericho, demanding answers, almost got into a backstage fight with Brock before the situation was diffused. Luckily for Lesnar, who would have been in serious trouble. Number 4. Super Cena buries the Nexus. WWE really had something going with the Nexus, the band of renegade rookies from the first season of NXT The Game Show who used strength in numbers to run roughshod over the WWE roster during the summer of 2010. The angle was working, and the Black and Yellow Gang were good value for a SummerSlam main event against the all-star team of Edge, Chris Jericho, John Morrison, R-Truth, Bret Hart, a returning Daniel Bryan, and John Cena. Ah yes, John Cena. Teflon John, the face that runs the place, the star that the PG-rated product had been built around for the past half a decade. A win over Team WWE, and Cena in particular, would have put the Nexus on another level, and established group leader Wade Barrett as a major player. But that's not how things turned out, as Cena overcame the odds, yet again, surviving a DDT on the concrete floor to easily dispatch Justin Gabriel, and then Barrett to win the match for Team WWE. Gabriel, Barrett, Jericho, Edge, and others have since been outspoken in how the wrong guy went over in the wrong way, essentially killing the Nexus off as a legitimate threat and torpedoing a storyline that had a lot of juice left in it. Number 3. Cometh the hour, cometh the man. At WrestleMania 37, Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair made history as the first African-American women to headline the Showcase of the Immortals, as the EST of WWE beat the Boss to bag the belt in a match that more than lived up to its main event billing. Given how good their first meeting was, anticipation was high for the sequel, which was booked for SummerSlam 2021. In the days leading up to the show, however, reports surfaced that WWE officials were worried the match wouldn't happen as advertised. It was only minutes before the match was due to begin that WWE announced that Banks would not perform as scheduled and announced Carmella as her replacement. Then came the swerve, as Becky Lynch returned after more than a year away, took out Carmella, and pinned Belair to win the title in less than 30 seconds. This whole scenario was controversial, not just because of the murkiness surrounding Sasha's absence, but due to how Bianca's title reign ended. Number 2. The Piledriver heard round the world. Heading into SummerSlam 1997, Steve Austin was well on his way to becoming the hottest wrestler on the planet. Stone Cold had been on an upward trajectory since cutting his iconic Austin 316 promo more than a year prior, but it really felt like there was no stopping the Texas Rattlesnake as he prepared to battle Owen Hart for the IC Championship, with the caveat that Austin would have to kiss Owen's backside if he failed to win. The match was going along great, as you'd expect for two superior workers, when something went terribly wrong. Hart spiked Austin with a sit-out tombstone piledriver, causing him to temporarily lose feeling in his lower extremities. After stalling for a time, Austin was able to pin Owen with the weakest roll-up in history, but it was clear that he was in a very bad way. Truthfully, Austin was never the same after. Though he still became the biggest star in the business, he was forced to alter his in-ring style and later underwent major neck surgery, which shortened his career. He also held a grudge against Owen, not just for causing the injury, but for failing to adequately apologize or check up on him afterwards. And number 1, the ultimate negotiation. When he defeated Hulk Hogan to win the WWE title in the main event of WrestleMania 6, the hope and expectation within the company was that the Ultimate Warrior would replace the Golden Goose as their biggest drawing card. Things didn't quite turn out that way, and a year later, the Hulkster was back on the scene to win the WWE title once again. Warrior was back to being second fiddle, but he was still a big enough star to team with Hogan against the terrible trio of Sergeant Slaughter, General Adnan, and Colonel Mustafa in the main event of SummerSlam 91. A month before the show, however, Warrior sent Vince McMahon a letter outlining various demands for his participation, which included a $550,000 payoff for his WrestleMania 7 match with Randy Savage, more days off, and higher royalties for Warrior merchandise. Having already advertised the match for SummerSlam and feeling as if he was put over a barrel, McMahon acquiesced to his star's demands, and Warrior performed in Madison Square Garden as scheduled. But when Warrior got backstage afterwards, McMahon handed him a letter telling him, among other things, that he was suspended. He'd be back, of course, but Warrior's ransom essentially signaled the beginning of the deterioration of the relationship he had with McMahon and WWE.